Ladies and pimples, we have
Ladies and pimples.
a wonderful Poundcast today with JP Hasson, aka JP Incorporated, aka Pleaseeasaur from back in the day, if you know, aka from Dorks, if you really know what's up, aka from Salad Shooter. We're gonna
Right.
learn all about JP's early bands and what
JP
do
is
we
also a
talk about?
tour
This is
manager.
just a good episode. It's an
He-
interesting, a lot of
yeah.
interesting stories and stuff.
Well, JP is also a tour manager. I mean, he's a tour manager who uh, tour manages a bunch of tours for a bunch
I've
of
been on
bands
tour with JP
and comedy acts. Yeah.
like many. I've probably traveled with him more than any person on earth. I've been to Australia with him like 3 times at least. Yeah. Anyway, we have a great chat, and I think you're gonna like the show. But first,
And then in After Dark, we talk about air germs and airplanes and traveling and stuff, and that gets kind of fun too.
yeah, and there's a big controversial thing that I talk about when I touched my shoe.
Yeah. So,
Yeah,
um,
and if you look, if you want to listen to the After Dark section, which is like a little bonus thing we do at the end, just go to our Patreon, patreon.com/poundcast. It's dirt cheap, and you can get immediate access by going there and subscribing to that.
and you get all the previous episodes
You
and
get them
stuff.
all. You get so much content for such a
It's definitely
little price.
it's a lot of content too.
And if you want to watch this on video, we're on YouTube, youtube.com/thepoundcast.
hmm
And
And we
we're
also
this week is very amazing because we're brought to you by LouisvilleVeganFoods.com, Brent.
wow, what a blast.
I mean, I just can't say enough about this stuff. Look, LouisvilleVeganFoods.com. I'm on the website right now. I'm just scrolling through these flavors. Small batch, queer Kentucky, cherry, chipotle, man, sweet chili, teriyaki. And it can all be yours as much as you want for 20% off by using the code word Poundcast at checkout. If you don't want to buy it at the dang store, and you know where it's available at, Brent, Whole Foods, Sprouts,
All those places.
and the list goes on.
But
Just
why
keep your
bother
eyes
when
out
you
for Louisville vegan jerky.
why
And they got
bother
now
when
they
you
look, they got these they got a cool beanie that I want. I'm gonna buy now, add to cart, get 20% off.
Oh,
It's
you switch it
yellow.
up.
Now I gotta get rid of this dumb Pizza Hut hat that I got for free. You know what? I'm gonna take this hat off. I'm gonna wait till my beanie comes that I got for 20% off. LouisvilleVeganFoods.com. Use the code word Poundcast.
You'll never wear that Pizza Hut beanie ever again.
That's right. I'm never gonna wear it again, Brent. So they are our sponsor, and I hope you
And that
guys.
stuff is and it's completely, completely meat free.
Who needs meat when you have perfectly good jerky without that meat? Skip the meat. Go straight to the jerk.
You mentioned yeah, and you said the code word, I guess. Yeah.
I did mention the code word, which is
Poundcast, and it's 20% off. And also, I mean, I know we're keeping this concise. This is the last thing I'll say. Handbag in the United States, and it has a shelf life of 9 months. Just wanted to just thought
I
I'd
mean
mention- we mentioned that
the
last week.
benefits, the attributes, the positive attributes of this stuff. Too
Infinite.
many to list, but yeah,
It-
I'm glad you did mention a few other
Just thought I'd throw that.
notable things about it. But
Moving on.
yeah, so you know what? We have a really cool remix today. This one is kick butt.
Oh, and one other thing quick before we get into this
Yeah.
remix, which is great. We also have a Discord now, and the link for the Discord is you can find it in the description on the YouTube videos, or even just on the description for the regular episodes that come out on allthingscomedy.com or wherever, Omni or wherever, so you might want to check that out if you want to get into some discussions and things like that. So this remix, it's really cool, right? It kind of reminds me of the Dancing on the Roof remix that Parker Rice did, but this one is by Carson Carr. And
Carson Carr. Yeah.
and what he did was, I'm not exactly sure what he did, but he took okay. So Emmanuel Lewis, who played Webster in the TV show Webster, he had this song, this kind of hit song called City Connection in Japan, by the way. It was a song in Japan called City Connection. And this was before the show Webster came out. And he did a sort of remix he did a remix of that song and also combining it with the remix of the Poundcast theme song. So it's this really cool kind of combination, and it sounds great.
Yeah, it's really cool. And I want to mention one other thing. Speaking of remixes, March of the Ding Dings is out on Spotify and elsewhere. Keep your eyes out for it. It's got 12 remixes by Machine Drum, Airboy, Express, Robert Julian Franzo, Max Tundra, Graham Smith, all the greats. And that's a track me and Sir Spence made. And I just want you to know that you should check that out. Look it up, check it out. The video will be out shortly, if it's not out by the time this comes out. Yes, Brent.
I'll say something. I don't like to mention this every week, but I just will say this just because I think some people maybe want to know. You know how I do these Twitch shows now?
Every Saturday night.
Yeah, Saturday night, 6 p.m. Pacific, play through a game and try to make jokes sometimes through it. If you don't like Twitch, that format, and you have trouble with playback and stuff like that on there, a lot of them get archived on YouTube, youtube.com/Legacy Music Hour. So you can find some of the archive ones are on there. You can watch them there. So maybe that's better for you. Anyway.
Yeah. And I guess we should plug all our stuff, right? Check out Office Hours, the other podcast I do with Tim Heidecker and Vic Berger every Thursday at 10 a.m. youtube.com/Tim Heidecker.
Let's hear this remix.
Let's listen to Carson Carr's remix because I can't get enough of it.
It's really.
And then we'll be right back with JP.
Let's roll the clip.
Roll the clip.
Doug and Brent, talking to each other. Doug and Brent, what will they talk? Doug and Brent, talking to each other. Doug and Brent, what will they talk about?
Night.
Doug, Brent, Doug, Doug, Brent, Doug, Brent, Doug, Brent, Doug, Brent, Doug, Brent, talking on the Poundcast.
And we are rolling with JP Hasson.
Sure. Hasson.
I've only known you for 15 years or something.
Yeah, 12, 13 years.
And I knew about you, around 2003 or 4 or something like that because of Anthony Bedard, I think.
Oh, in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Okay.
I knew about you.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew about JP Incorporated. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, Anthony was he was an early champion.
Yeah.
Of a lot of people.
Well, let's go back to the beginning here.
Okay.
Let's go back in time a little bit. JP, I first met you when you were called Pleaseeasaur.
Oh, that's actually how I knew you. Yeah,
Yeah.
Pleaseeasaur. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think it was at a Neil Hamburger show. Probably you played one of those satellite shows back when Neil had the only comedy show at the satellite.
I know.
During that 10-year run.
Yeah.
Before every show was a comedy show there.
Uh-huh.
Shit, I don't know. I mean,
that was probably right after I had moved to LA.
From where?
Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
My homeland.
So with Pleaseeasaur,
Uh-huh.
You've never been on the show. I feel like that's weird that you haven't been on the show before, but maybe this is the perfect time.
It might be.
We waited till the perfect time.
Yeah. Let's do it.
For those who are unfamiliar, Pleaseeasaur was right up my alley. It was a multimedia comedy performance in which you changed every song, you had a different outfit for.
Mhm.
And it was just, I really appreciated the amount of, I guess, the amount of work that went into it. Because I was in a band called TV Sheriff and the Trail Buddies, and we would set up our own screen, and the tech was like, we had to basically bring our own. It was Davey Foss's whole thing, really, but it was he had a video sampler, a MIDI keyboard that he strapped on like a guitar. So basically, I was like, cool, you know Davey, right? And the TV Sheriff and stuff.
I do. I mean, I don't know if I've ever met Davey, but we definitely know of each other and are like friends online and stuff. And I remember hearing about TV Sheriff from a guy in North Carolina, this guy Skip.
I know Skip.
Yeah, Skip Elsheimer.
Yeah.
Yeah, Skip's another like really great weirdo he's an archivist. He has like the biggest collection of 16 millimeter film in probably the country at this point. He's absorbed a lot of universities' archives now. So he has like a whole second house that's devoted just for archiving this stuff. But yeah,
I have some of his DVDs right up.
Yeah, AV Geeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He used to take like educational films made in like the 60s and around, or maybe earlier, and just kind of digitize them and kind of curate them and put them on DVD.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like kind of mind blowing and like really cool and like trippy, and like they were just done in this. They were just cool, and they were really fun to watch. I used to watch them. You know, when you have like people over and you want to watch something weird, I would put on his DVDs. They were like kind of perfect.
Well, one time I met a guy named Skip on Sunset Boulevard.
Oh.
He was standing outside of the Comedy Store, or he was sitting actually outside of this Comedy Store, and I recognized his face because his name is Skip Elo, and he had a public access show in Los Angeles called Skip Elo Looks at Hollywood. Sorry, this has nothing to do with what you guys are talking about, but I'm just saying that I met a Skip too.
Did he book the Comedy Store for a while?
I don't know. He had some association, and I was, I was in my, I think when I was walking down Sunset, I was by myself, and I was in my late teens. I think I was 19 or something, and I was, I was gearing up to start doing stand-up comedy myself in a year or so, and I was curious about the place, and he said, "I can't let you in because you're under 18," and I said, "Oh no, I'm over 18," or something like that. And then he just looked at me and said, "You're adorable." And so there you go. Skip Elo Looks at Hollywood. Skip Elo also looked at me, Brent Weinbach. Anyway,
by the way, Brent, I've been thinking about all week. I've been thinking about the what we were talking about the other day about if someone's being a bully, good comebacks. You're adorable would be a great comeback.
The Skip Elo approach.
Like, Brent, I'll do it to you. Brent, man, you're just not funny, man. That shirt, that shirt is trash.
You're adorable.
It works perfect. It works perfect.
You're adorable.
You're adorable. You just call them adorable. Anyway, back to JP.
Back to your Skip.
Yeah.
Back to your Skip.
I know another Skippy. This guy named Skippy who was like a record producer of indie bands in the 90s. Anyway.
Oh, wait, hold on. Fine.
I think Brent's Skip, I think he did have something to do with the Comedy Store, because Pleaseeasaur did a show at the Comedy Store in like 2001 or something.
Oh yeah, okay. That would add up.
And I think Duncan Trussell was
Duncan
involved.
Trussell. I think
Yeah.
Duncan Trussell, he put people up, I think,
Yeah.
around that time. Yeah.
And so it was booked as part of a tour I was doing, and it was an absolute, it was very traumatic. So I had, 2 big screens with like overhead projectors behind them, and I need some real estate. I need a little bit of stage depth to like get the full effect, right?
Mhm.
Well, that front room in the Comedy Store, it's like a sliver of a stage, and they don't allow you any time to set anything up, right?
Mm.
And I don't think they knew what a sound check was or anything like that. And so one of the guys on the bill was Barry Sobel from
Yeah.
Revenge of the Nerds 2.
And Punchline.
And I mean, like, yes, a million movies, but for me, Revenge of the Nerds 2, I grew up watching that movie like every single day on HBO. And so that was huge. I was like so excited. So he's on stage, and this woman who worked there, she's like, okay, well, you're next and you're on in like 5 minutes when he's done. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I need at least 20 minutes to like set up.
Uh-huh.
She's like, her mind was blown. She's like, there is no way in hell I'm going to have 20 minutes of dead stage time here. So she said, start setting up now. I'll pass Barry a note, and you guys just start carrying stuff up on stage.
Oh my gosh.
And I was mortified.
What did Barry say?
Barry was really amazing about it. He was like, we brought these screens up, and he's like, oh, well, I guess we're, doing surgery up here or something. I mean, I don't know. And he rolled with it as best he could. But I was very, very uncomfortable.
How was the show once you got it all set up?
It was like, out of a 10, it was like a 5,
Okay, well, that could have been worse. I've done the Comedy Store a few times, and yeah, I had a similar experience where they're just not used to people like us who need a sound check. I remember sound checking, and then on the flyer for the show, it was like 7 comedians or something. And then there was that little upstairs room, and they kept adding, people would just come in, and it would be like people would just be popping in, and I was waiting for like 2 hours just in the back of this, because I got there, I was the first one there, except the host. And I like kind of freaked out on the host and became, what do you call it? Angry?
Okay.
Kind of like yelled at him. I was like, what the hell? When do I go up? He wanted me to go like last, right?
When was this?
This was a while ago, 5 years ago or something. Anyway, I was just like, and then the crowd was evolving. Like people would come in and watch the show, and then, they're there for an hour and then they leave. It's like, what is this show that's going on for so long? Anyway, I kind of blew my top, and I was like, I don't know. This is why I got to do the satellite and like rock clubs.
Well,
they're not prepared.
Yeah.
And then I remember another time I did a showcase, and Brent, you might have been there. It was at like the Improv. This is a real long time ago. And I set up my whole thing. I like sound checked. Everything was fine. And then like I was first, and it was like one of those showcase things where like agents are there or something.
Yeah, I was on this. I was on that showcase as well.
And I get up there, and it just was no sound. It was just the sound check was like a waste. Someone in the back just turned me off, and I'm up there kind of flailing for like 5 minutes, be like, I need to do my set now. And it was just so embarrassing.
I don't remember that. I don't remember you struggling or whatever. And all I remember actually is just thinking it was cool what you were doing. And I thought, oh, this is cool.
It was great. It was really cool once I got.
But to be honest, now that I think about it, I think I went into the show a little late. So I might have missed you struggling or whatever.
Yeah, I think I was first. So it was like this big build up. Everyone's waiting. The show finally starts. They introduce the first guy. It's me. And then I go up there like, what's up? And then I'm like,
everything's muted.
Yeah, just silence.
I think when I came in, you already you had sound and you were doing your thing, and I thought, oh, this is interesting. I actually thought to myself, I wish I caught the whole thing.
That also happened at that 8-bit the Jerry Maguire show. Do you guys know what that is? Where they turned that whole art gallery into Jerry Maguire,
Oh,
a
Yeah.
blockbuster that only had Jerry Maguire. It was a cool show.
I think I was on that too, or
And I,
maybe it was,
yeah, and I sound checked because I was like very specific. Like I have to sound check. The sound's got to be right in here. And then the sound guy, I think he was smoking pot. He was like pulling hits off a pipe. And he was like, and then yeah, just no sound. But then luckily I just like, that was after I had many jokes that I could just tell as jokes. So I just started doing stand up until they figured it out.
well, these types of things, well, the Comedy Store at least, they're not really the way they do things. It's not really they're not geared for, or they're not set up for. They're set up for just comedians that are just going to talk into a microphone and just
or
boom, boom, boom.
I
you
know, but they gotta get to the modern age with people like JP and I. We're from the future. We're doing comedy that is not just your grandpa's comedy. You know, this is
this is not your grandpa's
cutting edge stuff with
This is not your grandpa's tampon.
right.
By the way, you mentioned another guy named Skippy.
Yeah.
Well, I knew a Skippy as well. I know Skippy from Family Ties.
oh, I remember the neighbor Skippy.
Mark Price, his name is, and he's a comedian.
Oh,
I always
So-
get him mixed up with the guy that died, Boner.
Boner, Koenig.
Boner died.
Yeah,
Tragically.
His name Vincent Stabone or something.
yeah. The actor's name is Koenig, right?
Anyway,
Anyway,
I want to get back. I want to learn
his
about
sister-
JP. Okay?
His sister is Jimmy Pardo's wife, by the way. But anyway, all right.
Wait,
Boner's sister?
Boner's wife
Boner's-
is Jim.
Boner's sister is Jimmy Pardo's wife.
Now, Jimmy Pardo, the comedian, or the guy that was the announcer?
That's Don Pardo.
Don Pardo. Are they related?
I don't know. I don't think so.
All right. Well, look.
Okay,
JP,
look.
I want to know
JP.
about the origin of Pleaseeasaur. And if you've told us on 1,000 podcasts already and it's boring, we can go quick. But
The origin of Pleaseeasaur.
wait, let me ask you this. You're from Seattle, right?
Yes.
Were you into the
True
grunge
Starbucks.
scene?
You were
I
born a
was-
Starbuck.
Yeah. I was definitely into the grunge scene. I was probably 1989, 90 is when like things were like really starting to go crazy, and then 91 is when like Nevermind came out. So I was born in 77, so I was a little bit younger. I was like a few grades younger than like the high school kids who were like really after it,
The ones that were really moshing.
Totally. But my friends and I, there was a venue. I grew up in the woods across the ferry from the city. And so there was a venue right on the waterfront in the city called the OK Hotel. And it was on Sundays, they would have matinee shows, like all ages, 12 p.m. matinees. And our parents allowed us, we were like 12, they allowed us to like pick a show, and then we could like take the ferry and go to this show. And we picked this band called Tree People, which wound up being, it's the guy Doug Marsh from Built to Spill.
I remember Tree People. I think I had one of their tapes when I was a kid.
So, oh my God, it was like, we could have picked, like Shit Willie and the Dog Catchers or something, and my life would be totally different. But like that show was so formative.
Why did you pick that, Tree People? Because of the name?
Just
we thought
random?
we thought it sounded neat.
Okay.
Yeah. And like the poster was cool, and like,
That's
you
why
know.
that stuff matters, because you want to get those young fans. You want them to make sure they see you.
That is kind of interesting. That's a good thought. Is that for maybe you're the way you market yourself or the art and stuff, that's that is, you got to draw the right audience in for the art,
Yeah.
And by the way, did your parents go with you to the show, or did you?
No.
Or they let you go? Okay.
They
cool.
let us go. Yeah. A friend of mine who was a couple years older, she, I think, had her like learner's permit or something. And so we were able to drive with her to the ferry, and then you walk across the ferry and then walk to the show.
I mean,
So this was a noon show.
Yeah.
Outdoors or was it indoor?
Indoor.
Was there people like moshing and stuff?
No, there were probably, there were like maybe 75 people there.
Because
That's cool.
my first show, which blew my mind, it was like my friend's older brother took us to an all ages show, and it was the Circle Jerks and 7 Seconds.
Wow.
And
In Chicago?
I never knew about stage diving or moshing. I never like saw it before, and I was just fully stage, like, people, where they pick you up, and I was crowd surfing and stage diving the whole show.
Mhm.
I was like 4 feet tall or something, and everyone would like lift me up.
That's so funny.
It was
when I go to shows,
that
I
was
usually-
like, that was my show that blew my mind.
Yeah.
When I go to shows, I don't really crowd surf. I do crowdsourcing instead.
Oh, nice.
And I kind of just try to get my startup going.
Some clout,
No,
right?
I can't. I don't know. I can't remember what the first show I went to, but one of the, I don't know. I mean, there was like a lot of all ages shows in Los Angeles. I do remember one time in high school I went to see.
You grew up here? I thought you grew up in San Francisco.
No, I moved to the Bay Area for college, but then
I see.
I stayed there as after college. But I grew up right here in Hollywood, and I saw my friend. I had friends in high school that were in a band called Blue Collar Special. It was a punk band, and they played at the Roxy on Sunset. And but headlining was the Cottonmouth Kings.
Oh,
Like, aren't they? They're like stoner band, right? Because they're called the Cottonmouth Kings.
Something like
like-
that. There's
they're like rap rock, right?
some kind of rap rock
Rap
thing or
rock.
something like that. I don't know. It was kind of just. I mean, that's the least likely band you would ever see me at. But I was there because my friend's band was playing there. But anyway, there were a lot of all ages shows in town here. But.
I bet.
Okay, so after you see Tree People,
So Tree People, I had, my friends and I had our own bands and stuff. And
what was that called?
First band was called, well, the first incarnation was called Salad Shooter. And because there was a
That's
product called the Salad Shooter. Do you remember
I
that?
remember the Salad Shooter.
Yeah.
Was that like a hand cranked? It like shot it. It chopped up
Yeah.
the salad and shot it into
Yeah,
the
you, like,
bowl.
put the carrot in the top, and then you go
Uh-huh.
like this, and yeah. We did one show at a VFW hall, like at like 3:00 in the afternoon on a weekday as Salad Shooter. That was fun. And do you have a question?
I just wanted to know real quick. Did you ever see Nirvana before Nevermind and before they were really big? Or
I saw them twice. I saw them once when they were huge in an arena in Seattle. And then, but I think Nevermind had maybe just come out, or was about to, or I don't remember. But it was in Bellingham, Washington, which is close to Canada. And Mudhoney was playing this at Western Washington University, and in the gymnasium or whatever. So my friends and I drove up there, smoking clove cigarettes and doing the whole thing. And so Mudhoney's supposed to come out, and then all of a sudden these other guys are setting up, and fucking Nirvana comes out and plays for an hour, and the place was just going berserk. And there were maybe 1,000 people there, but that's the smallest show of them I had ever seen. So
I would like to say that I saw Mudhoney. I never saw Nirvana. I do remember when Nirvana was playing in Chicago and everyone was like, "We got to go see Nirvana." I almost went. I don't know, but I did see Mudhoney, and that was I think that was the wildest show I've ever experienced. It was hardcore moshing.
there was
slam dancing.
yeah,
It
there
was the most.
that's the peak
I was just
of-
getting combat boots on my head, and it
Yeah.
was kind of borderline scary, but it was also like the most fun whenever I 18 or whatever I was when I saw it. It was awesome.
Question for Doug, and actually comment for myself. By the way, there was a lot of moshing at that Cottonmouth Kings show that I was at.
What year was that?
It was in the mid '90s or something, like, like, I don't know, yeah, mid '90s, yeah. But okay, so there was a lot of moshing then. But anyway, question for Doug: did you ever see the Smashing Pumpkins before they were big in Chicago?
Good question. I think no, because I have no memory of seeing them. But I remember I got Gish when it came out. Like, I think that was their first album, and I thought it was cool. I was working at a skate shop and people were playing it, and that's all I remember with the Pumpkins.
Mm-hmm.
I think after that, I think they got really big after that, and I was into different stuff at that point.
Yeah.
And then
Anyway.
Melancholy for the Infinite Sadness came out, and I thought that was the most pretentious name for anything.
Mm.
And I was like, these guys suck.
But you still stayed true to James Eha, though, right?
I liked Gish and I liked Eha. No, I don't know. My friend went to high school with James Eha, so
They were a Chicago group?
yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, man. The Pumpkins are a Chicago
never a-
original.
I was never a Pumpkinhead.
I was never a Pumpkinhead. I mean, I did listen to Gish a few times. It was cool. But I remember it was like Seattle. Seattle was like, it was like this feeding frenzy for record labels to jump on the grunge craze. And then they went to Chicago and they got a bunch of bands out of there. Anyway.
Well,
so look, we're back to his band, the Salad Shooters. That's what I want to know about.
Right.
Oh yeah, Salad Shooter. So that Salad Shooter lasted one show, and then we were an instrumental trio. And
what did you play?
I was the bass player. And then we got a singer / flautist, this woman named Billy. And we called ourselves Nurse Diesel after a character in a Mel Brooks movie. And that lasted for a couple years. That was like really fun. We did a lot of shows. We opened for a lot of bigger bands. We opened for Tree People. That was like a really big deal for us.
That's cool.
Was Doug Marsh still in that band? Was that before he did
He was still in the band, yeah.
That was before he started what was it called?
Built to Spill.
Built to Spill.
Yeah.
Oh wow, okay.
And then we had a simultaneous side project with another friend of ours, who a guy singer, and that was called the Dorks. It was Dorx. And he's a couple years older, like hyper intellectual. He went to Reed College in Portland. He was like,
just like Mikey and Andrew Michon.
Very, 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 very.
Mikey and Andrew Michon, as if they are, brothers or a married couple or something like that. Like
Right.
they're Mikey Michon and Andrew Michon.
And that group, we did a bunch of like recording over like Christmas break and like, spring break and stuff like that when everybody was together.
Right. By the way, Mikey did not go to Reed College, by the way.
No, I don't think he did.
He just he was hanging out with Andrew a lot at that time that Andrew went to Reed College.
My bad.
Reed College was a crazy place. We played a couple shows there, and Pleaseeasaur later played a bunch of shows there. It was always like this wild party, like super smart kid, like people like tripping on like mescaline while reading philosophy by some fucking mathematician or something. And it was a lot, but I was younger when I was exposed to that, so I thought like that's what college was. And
Did you go to college?
No. Did you?
So did you graduate high
That's
school?
why I moved to the Bay Area.
Oh, that's right. Where did you go?
UC Berkeley.
UC Berkeley.
UC Berkeley, I see a great college. Anyway,
Go to college, Doug?
yeah, I went to College of DuPage, which is a community college in DuPage County, Illinois. Then I went to Columbia College in Chicago,
Oh.
which is like a film school.
Cool.
It wasn't a wild. There wasn't anyone doing mescaline and reading philosophy at my schools, but I think I learned something. Not much. I don't. It's not about me right now. Okay, don't get me started because my wheels are turning about college. But
You in a frat?
of course,
Brent, do you?
No, but I did go to a couple rushes or whatever they call them,
Oh, wow.
because just because there was free food at those things, so they would be like, "Oh, there's free pizza here." I'll be like, "Okay," and then they would talk to me about joining their fraternity. I was just kind of like thinking in my head, "Well, I just was like here to get the pizza," but I
there
don't
was
know.
no frat at my college, or I don't even think there was sports teams or anything.
Yeah,
Um,
I was not. I was involved with frats. Actually, if anything, I hung out more at co-ops, which were kind of like fraternities for alternative people, But I didn't even do that either. Those are kind of too funky for me, and in the other respect. But back to you, Skip. Back to your Skip.
Well,
No, just kidding.
I'm the Skip, right? All right. Well, okay. Let's go. Keep going down
So,
the
yeah,
timeline.
the
So you're
Dorks.
on. You're in the Dorks.
I'm at the Dorks. So, and then
So instead of the
around-
dorms, you stayed in the Dorks. Like
Exactly.
that was your college, yeah.
So around the time of the Dorks, which would have been 91, 92, I started doing making these sort of improvised. I would make these little sequencer songs. My dad had a little Yamaha QY10 sequencer. And do you have one of those? Oh, very similar. What's that? Is that the QY10?
This is the QY70.
Oh, wow. So yeah, that's the fancy version. Mine had a little teeny screen.
This is not mine. I borrowed it, but it's too complicated for me anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's lots of MIDI channels, and I was very impatient with it. I would just like kind of press buttons until something interesting happened.
Yeah.
I would make these little songs, and then I would improvise like straight to tape, like hit record and like improvise like silly lyrics.
So like singing along to it, right?
Correct. Yeah. And I made a Pleaseeasaur album in 92. So
Wow, it goes back that far.
it does. And I would like pass them around at school and stuff. And
Oh, that's cool.
so I think I did 3 tape albums until 96 and 95. And then I finished high school and moved to Philadelphia to play in a band. Yeah.
Are those early Pleaseosaur tapes? Can people listen to those now? Are they online?
No.
Will you put them on?
If I can find them, a friend of mine will probably have them digitized. I don't have them digitized myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
We want to release the tapes.
Yeah, really.
I got a question for JP, but it's not related to his timeline or anything.
That's cool.
Okay, just to take a little detour.
Yeah.
How did you have a sort of a very confident, almost hardcore essence? Hardcore is not quite the right word, but you have a confidence about you. Where does that come from?
I don't even know how to answer that. Now I'm self-conscious.
Okay, I mean, do you
Like Brent, first of all, Brent, if you're gonna ask someone like that, that's not something he's gonna like have a quick answer for. It's you know what I mean? It's not like, oh, I'm confident because
Well, I guess this. were you always confident? Were you always, you have a very sort of,
No,
um,
not at all.
I don't know, a very kind of a solid, you have a solid essence. I don't know if that makes sense, but I'm wondering if you were always like that or if you grew into that.
I think
Do you
maybe,
know what I mean by that too?
I mean, I'll guess, but I'll say if I'm not overthinking something, then I'm perfectly content with the world and confident in my ability to navigate the exact moment. But if I start thinking about your question, for example, then just like anyone else, I would presume, you get bogged down in thought and, you know, all that sort of, and self analyzation and, you know,
You just seem very sure.
I'm sure that I usually don't know exactly what I'm talking about.
What I meant is that it seems like you use the deodorant and that you don't like no, I'm just kidding. I don't know.
I do use deodorant.
I was unsure about how I was trying to make that joke about Sure deodorant.
Was that your initial goal when you
Asked
asked
you
me
the
that
thing?
question?
It was
No,
all leading up to this
I'm
deodorant
serious
joke.
about. I am sure about thinking that you seem sure,
Okay.
but then I was unsure about how I was going to also make a joke about Sure deodorant.
I'm sure that my confidence, if you want to call it that,
Or
has evolved over time. I'm also, I mean, for the last 10 years, I've been a tour manager,
yeah,
and a lot of responsibility falls on me being sure of what the hell's going on or
well,
what.
that's part of it. That's part of your vibe. Is you have this tour manager kind of vibe where it's, yeah. It just I feel it.
Okay. Well, hopefully that puts you at ease that you know that the show will go on.
Yeah, it does.
Okay, good.
Well,
I know that I can be intense too. Like
No,
if
I like your vibe actually.
if
Is what I'm
things
really getting at.
are, well, you and I are connecting in that way, which is interesting.
I've traveled the world with JP probably more than anyone else. I've
That
probably logged more miles with you than anyone else, like on Earth, because
that's true.
we'll get into the touring. We'll get into that in the later part of the show because that's interesting too, and I want to know about tour stuff.
Okay.
But so you went to Philadelphia.
I did.
What band did you join?
I joined a band called Touch Me Zoo, which was, I guess, let me back up a year. So I was a junior in high school. I had become, my favorite band was the Dead Milkmen from Philly, and I was obsessed with everything about them. And when they were on tour in Seattle, when I was about 15 or so, my friends and we sought them out. They were playing at doing a radio interview, and we used to call that DJ all the time, and like he would let us play our band like live over the air.
Wow.
And which he probably should not have done that, but so we convinced him to let us in the radio station. Like we were buzzing the radio station front door, like let us in. And they let us in. We were allowed to be the on-air audience, and got to meet them, and then went to their show that night. And I got to talking with the guitar player, and I was like, yeah, I wrote your fan club or whatever, but I never got anything back. And he's like, oh, well, I'll write you a letter. So I gave him my address, and we became pen pals.
Are you talking about Joe Jack?
Talcum. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I would send him and those guys the Pleaseeasaur tapes, and then Joe and I always talked about doing a project together. And so when I was 17, the year between junior and senior year of high school, I went to Philadelphia for a summer for like 2 weeks to record with him. And it was I mean, for me it was incredible.
What kind of music was this?
It was like we did everything on a 4-track, so everything was like kind of lo-fi. We both played all the instruments. I played drums and bass. He mostly played guitar.
What
And
genre would it be closest to?
I mean, it kind of sounded like the Dead Milkmen.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What was
It was like-
Pleaseeasaur sounding like at that time? Like, in early 90s or, 92, 90.
It sounded like poorly sequenced novelty music.
Okay.
But this group, it was called, when my project with Joe was called We're Not From Idaho. And that was like that Pleaseeasaur sound, like crappy keyboard sound mixed with guys playing real lo-fi instrumentation.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it was really, really fun. We did a tape of that, and that got passed around to friends and stuff too. And
Is that tape out? Is that tape out there?
I bet that's out there somewhere.
Release the tapes.
Okay. So then I went back, I finished high school. I moved to Philly. He had a proper Dead Milkman side project called Touch Me Zoo with another couple guys. And they asked me to be their bass player. And so I did that for a couple of years, year and a half. We had done an album, and then we were just done a single, and we had like done some really good shows. We had opened for like interesting bands like Sparkle Horse and the Rentals and stuff like that.
Nice.
Kind of mid-level things that were interesting.
At that time, were either your parents like, why aren't you going to college or something like that? Or they like, oh, you have a nice indie rock career, keep going.
Yeah. The plan was I was going to go to school in Philadelphia. I was going to take a year, get settled there, work on this band, and then go to school for chemistry. I was like, I wanted to be a chemist. And, but it never happened. And the band was like starting to, do some interesting things. And then just, we were all young, and the interpersonal stuff, it died, and I moved back to Seattle, and I needed something to do. So I started doing Pleaseeasaur full time.
And then how did you
get into costume?
How did you ramp up the Pleaseeasaur? Because I know there's like a video element. Basically, it was like a lot of commercials for stuff.
Yeah, it
Right?
was a little bit more
the newer stuff that I'm
than
familiar
that.
with.
Yeah, it was like, it wasn't as well thought out as like, oh, it's going to be all commercials. It was more zany, and like, I mean, zany is a bad word, but it was just whatever thing I and the other guys that were involved in any given time thought was interesting,
I think zany is a great word.
Well, I just don't want it to be like, like, yeah, we're going to see comedy night at Zany's downtown.
There's a comedian named Bob Zaney.
I do know that.
I did not know
his
that.
Catchphrase goes, "It's now or never, baby."
Wow.
Something like that,
Good old Bob.
So
then,
you guys started just getting more crazy with it, doing
Well,
costumes.
I did a show, me and my friend Ben, the two of us like on stage, basically wearing like silly clothing. And I remember my uncle, the show was at that same place, the OK Hotel, where I saw Tree People as a kid. And I remember my dad was there, my uncle, like a bunch of friends, and my uncle, who's like well known in the rock and roll and music community, he was standing at the back of the room like this. I could see him back there. He's very
what does he do in that community?
He's hardcore and confident.
He is hardcore and confident. And he was like, I remember he and my dad had a conversation where my uncle was like, man, this fucking kid is twisted. And my dad, you know, half sticking up for me, half sticking it to his brother-in-law, half, you know, embracing what I was attempting to do. He was like, you know, fuck you. What he's exploring the options of trying and failing and trying and succeeding, and you know.
Well, I think that sounds like that could be a compliment as well. Man, this shit is twisted.
Well,
You know
and
what I
coming
mean?
from my uncle's an interesting guy. His name's Greg Keplinger, and he's a well-known jazz drummer, but he's most well known for he builds drums. He has a very famous snare drum called the Keplinger snare that he makes. A lot of them are made custom for, I mean, anybody from Ringo to Charlie Watts to Dave Grohl.
Wow. So a lot of
Everybody
the
has
big
a Keplinger.
heavy hitters got Keplinger snares, huh?
Everybody's got a Keplinger snare.
Wow.
But he wound up being a drum tech for, he toured with Soundgarden and Pearl Jam and like Elvin Jones from John Coltrane, and a lot of really interesting, you know, big shows that he would be touring with. But his career and his basis being in like very outside avant jazz. So for him to say that what I was doing was twisted, you're right, Doug. It was like, to me, I had to take it as a compliment, or otherwise I would just like curl up in a ball and be like, oh my God, he hates it.
Wait, so bottom line, what happened at the show when your uncle said you were twisted? It sounds
Yeah,
like
what was so twisted?
Nothing. It was just silly. It was just
What were you doing? You're just jumping around in an outfit or what?
just jumping around and singing like really stupid songs. Like
About what?
I mean, I don't even remember what the set was like, but
You don't remember one of the songs?
I mean, an early song there was a song called Beef Flavored Island. There, a really old song called Bull Noodle Hot, which is about like a cup of noodles type of product. Just silly shit like that.
And what were you, what outfits were you wearing? Or
I was
what
only wearing one outfit.
Okay.
And I don't even, it was like a weird, like sailor's outfit, like a sailor, almost like the Dutch boy,
Uh-huh.
you know, with like a little sailor cap and like
Yeah.
the ribbon thing around your
Yeah.
collar. Like, who the hell wants to see that? And
Cool that your dad was into it.
well, my dad was a freak anyway. He was an artist, and like he got it. Even though he maybe didn't get each individual slice at any given time, I think understood what I wanted to do, what I was trying to do, you know.
So your whole family is kind of artsy
And very accepting. You know, back to Doug, your question about like going to college and stuff. I think they were like, well, what, you know, we're not going to force you. Like, if it happens, it happens, and you know, do your thing.
I'm just curious if any, like, I guess the sequencer story kind of fits, but if you ever kind of like happened upon something that like kind of clicked, because I remember hearing a few stories lately. Like, I watched the Bee Gees documentary, and you know how like most people think about the Bee Gees, they think about the 70s, like super falsetto, like that super high voice. But they had been a band for like 10, 15 years before that, where they were just sort of singing, you know, almost Beatlesque stuff at first. And then, you know, they didn't, then they were in the studio and a producer wanted Barry Gibb to do a background vocal on one song. And he said, can you scream, but then have it be like in key? So then he went, wah! And then they were like, that's it. That's the new Bee Gees sound. And it was like all because of this kind of like accidental thing that they didn't even think about.
Wow.
And I also heard Andre 3000 talking about like, when he started out, he was like rapping like other people, kind of like, how people do that when they're starting out. They kind of sound like whoever they like. And then one day he was like in the studio, like really stoned or something, and he just started rapping like in his own voice
Hmm.
instead of like putting on like a. By the way, you looked really cool with that lighting.
Well, I was gonna try to close it. Oh, but there you
Anyway,
go.
Andre 3000, like it was another thing where he like accidentally was just sort of like as a he was just playing around, and he like started rapping in his own voice instead of like this other kind of like rapper voice he was doing. And then the producer was like, "That's your voice. That's your rapping voice." And then like that's what like hit. You know what I mean? That's what like caught on.
Oh.
Did you have ever have any moments like that?
Many moments where, and not necessarily musically. I mean, I've had musical moments like that, I guess, but I think when I realized that like I could write funny lyrics, it didn't necessarily matter if the music was good. That people would laugh at the things I was saying and how I was performing it, and in the context of what other visual things were happening. It was almost like I always envisioned it like, well, you can patent something. Um, yes, somebody can rip off like a certain invention, but if you patent like all of the things packaged in one thing, like only that product is allowed to deliver that service, right?
Yeah.
So that's how I looked at it. I was like, well, I think if I put all of these pieces together, that's where my strength is, like creating interesting visual art components, really stupid lyrics, and odd musical background. Like that was a good combination for me. And there was a guy, his name was Dale Travis, a guy in Seattle, who he was this like mad scientist guy. He had this big warehouse full of like surplus military science shit, and he built Tesla coils, and he built them for Man or Astro Man. And I saw this guy, he did a performance called Dr. Electric's House of Shock, where he had like all these Tesla coils and these science experiments like all going at the same time. And he would kind of walk you through it. And I remember seeing that and being like, I want to be friends with him so bad. And so we like, me and my friends sought him out. He became a really great close friend. And it was his idea to like, he's like, well, why don't you, I have these old overhead projectors. Why don't you use these? And he had all these like crazy old military slides that we would show like random, it wasn't even like images that corresponded to what I was singing about, just random shit. And so it was based on his idea to put this stage screen thing together. And then it wasn't until like kind of doing a few shows like that and then stepping back and being like, oh wow, what if I drew pictures and then like you show them as I'm singing about them,
Yeah.
And that was a big light bulb moment.
I do like the idea of you singing Bowl Noodle Hot and then having military photos of
I mean, but that's also why it was so weird initially, because I had no backgrounds. It was just me on stage.
Yeah.
So like, of course somebody's going to think that this guy is mentally deranged
or twisted.
It's so good to have a video component though. Like,
yeah, for me, it was.
For me too. I mean, I don't really do that with mine, but I've done it with 2 Cruise shows where we do a whole, PowerPoint presentation and stuff. But yeah, that's awesome.
Video was not even achievable in the earlier days, so it had to be still images,
Did you have any other moments like that sort of like accidental like aha light bulb moments that were not necessarily with music or anything?
Um, I mean, I've had it about like career stuff, like when I became a tour manager.
Let's
Um,
get into that.
Yeah, let's get into. Well, real quick, I just want to talk about your new album, which is I an ambient record, I would call, but
mhm.
it's soothing music designed for massage parlors.
Yeah, it's for people to bring to their own massages.
And
So
what is that called?
it's called Massage and Spa.
And where can people hear it?
It's on Bandcamp and it's on YouTube. Um, so on its own, musically, it's just like a soothing massage album. But
It's
there's
really nice.
I
by the
made
way.
a, thank you. I made a 1 hour video companion to it, which is sort of these monotonous. Some of them are sillier. There's more jokes in the visuals than there's really no jokes in the music, but I suggest watching it on YouTube.
So, and what's your YouTube channel? In case we forget to mention it.
I think it's JP Incorporated.
All right. Um,
I think so.
yeah. So, like I said before, um, I've been on tour with you many times. Like, how did that first click that you were like, I should be? It was probably with Tim and Eric, right?
No, it was before that. It was the band Pinback.
That's right.
I had toured with Pinback and as an opener, and they were at a phase where they needed a tour manager, and I was at a phase where I was like burnt out on performing myself, but there were things about touring that like I really liked and I was good at.
What did you like
And
about it?
I like the details. I like worrying about parking. I like being
Why?
on
Why
You're
do
the
you
first
like?
person ever to say that.
it's just I like to know what's going on.
Yeah.
And I like I like the setup, I like the organization. I love the idea of putting on a great show that runs on time and where people have a good experience.
Just out of curiosity, what's your sign? I'm not. I'm not. I don't. I'm not into astrology. I'm just curious.
Wow.
From what my girlfriend says, I am a classic Capricorn.
Okay. Carry on.
January 18th.
What,
I don't know.
February 18th, you say?
January.
January 18th, yeah. Mhm.
When's your birthday?
Me?
Yeah.
It's I'm a Virgo.
What's that mean?
September.
Okay.
In the
Yeah.
After Dark segment, I want to talk about a specific tour managing moment that I was at the crossroads of on this recent
Oh.
Eric Andre tour.
Oh, okay. I don't even know which story this could be.
Yeah, but like I understand that because yeah, being on the Tim and Eric tours, I'm like a crew member and a performer, and it's like you see the people coming in, and I don't know, there's just like this excitement of like we got to do this show, and the clock is ticking down, and it's gonna happen, and like
Well,
they're all
and
coming
for me,
together.
I
It's
think
fun.
I think what Pinback liked, and then what eventually, Tim and Eric and all the other people I've worked with, is like I I think I have a unique perspective as a performer myself. So like the conditions that are going to be optimal
Yeah.
from the stage perspective, but I also know what it's like to be in the audience because I like going to a show. And I also, I mean, like Pinback, I played in their band a few times, like on TV and things like that. And Tim and Eric, I would get in costume if need be, and
You did Grum.
I did Grum.
You
Yeah.
also did Chad from AEG.
I am the voice of Chad from AEG. So, I think, and like other groups that I tour with, you know, I do a lot of voices and I run all the video content, and so it's not just tour managing.
Now, I guess we got to wrap it up in about 5 minutes, and if there's anything else you want to get out there, let us know, because I'm just curious about touring and stuff. Like, you tour with some YouTubers called Ninja Sex Party.
I have toured with them, yes.
One of them was on the podcast before, you know.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Dan Avedon.
Oh,
He's half of Game Grumps.
Right.
I do know that.
Yeah. I'm just saying, I don't know, like, what kind of act is your favorite? Well, I don't know. I mean, like, maybe I just want to know some exciting, weird stuff from the road. Maybe that's really what I really want to get to the good stuff.
What are some of the freaky tales
Yeah,
that you tell so well?
Or like a nightmare tale where you pulled it off just in time.
Well, that's kind of, I mean,
Or maybe it all goes smoothly because you're the best.
Or do you ever lose your cool?
From what I've been told, I don't necessarily lose my cool, but I have a tendency to be very intense to be around sometimes.
What's that like? What's that look like?
It means that, like, the one example I always think of is I was in San Francisco with Ninja Sex Party at Bill Graham, or maybe something like that, and either Civic Center or the
Masonic Auditorium or something.
The one across from the church. There's a big church.
Masonic Auditorium. I think.
Yeah. Yeah, we were there, and sometimes the venue demands that they provide their own merch sellers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And merch for these bigger groups, I mean, that's such a massive component. You know, you do tens and 20s of thousands a night in merch.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't drop the ball. And so I remember these guys were late, and then they just weren't, like, we were ready to just open the doors. The guy was like, yeah, man, we'll get to it. And I'm like, if you're claiming that you are the only ones that are allowed to sell, but you're not set up, we've got however many thousands of people outside ready to spend their money and ready to come in. He's like, yeah, man, don't worry about it. And so I go and off and do something else, and then I come back, he's dicking around, and I was starting to get frustrated. And this guy was probably like 60, like classic San Francisco, like, yeah, man, I used to tour with Phil Lesh, man. Like, I wouldn't worry about it. And I wasn't having it that day. I said, I'm going to walk over there and I'm going to be back in 5 minutes. When I come back, I look forward to you having this completed.
I look forward to it.
That's like a nice way of,
threatening him.
Yeah.
And then
I look forward.
What did he say?
The look on his face. I mean, I was also like this close to him when I said that.
Wait, how did you say it? I mean, did you say it? Were you kind of yelling at him when you said that?
No, he said it just like that. I'm sure he just like that.
And I think that's what spooked him.
I look forward to it.
I look forward.
Because it's such a parental move,
That is so funny.
And I don't think this guy has had like a parental move pulled on him as a 60-year-old man.
That is hilarious. I mean, it's like saying, it's not, instead of saying, and I want you to do this, you say, I look forward to it. I love that. That's so funny. I look forward to it.
Yeah, I gotta say, SF has the most memorable, like, sort of sound guys and house guys of anywhere that I can remember. Like, they're all they're like that. They're kind of,
a lot of them are. I mean, there are venues that are really, really, really good and pro.
I mean, some of them were great. I'm just saying,
still like
a lot of characters. Yeah,
a lot of characters. The Warfield crew, I think, is like one of the greatest. I love.
That's probably what I'm thinking of. Is that the one where it was like this battle zone of kind of like street people between the hotel and the venue, and me and Tim had to like go on this like other side route?
Yeah, you're right in the thick of it.
Yeah.
On the corner of Brent could tell us what corner it is.
I forgot.
I think
was
It's
like-
on Market. It's on Market. Market.
Every
and-
turn we
at
made
the
was
edge
like
of the Tenderloin.
every turn we made was like somebody throwing something at us or some kind of crazy scene happening everywhere.
yeah. There's a
Real
lot
big
of-
problem over there.
I want to know. I mean, I
Well,
know
we
you-
got to
yeah.
wrap it up kind of soon. I kind of have to keep tonight's show kind of tight.
Okay. Well,
But
let's.
what do you
wrap
want
it
to
up
know,
and
Brent?
then-
Let's finish with
Well,
that.
we can wrap it up, and then I'll ask him. On the next part.
Well, let's
portion.
give the
Okay,
listeners.
I just wanted to know, how did
this.
you start to become known as a tour manager guy? From Pinback, you do Pinback, and then how did that lead to eventually doing these comedy shows and stuff, and or comedy tours, and then also, and even Ninja Sex Party. How did you connect with them? I mean,
I was for the next one was Tim and Eric, and
how did that happen?
I was playing wiffle ball with Doug and Tim and Eric. That was back when Eric used to come and play. And
Why were you there? Why were you? What was your association with the wiffle ball? How did you do that?
I liked playing wiffle ball.
I mean, how did you connect though with them?
We knew JP from like through Neil Hamburger for a long time. We
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
shows
I had
to-
booked him, and
got it.
I didn't really know Eric very well, and but I knew Doug, and but I remember them saying, like, Eric and I were talking, and he's like, "Yeah, we're doing this tour in Australia, and we don't know. We need somebody to like run the show, but it's like kind of weird." And I think Tim was like, "Well, why don't you do it, JP? Like, you are known for putting on a crazy show with like basically zero budget. So now you have a budget, and you're also a tour manager. So it was kind of the perfect time for everything to meet." And that was another time when it all clicked. I was like, oh, instead of like fame and fortune for me being a performer, which wasn't going to happen probably.
You could just get fortune.
Well, I could get a steady paycheck,
Mm-hmm.
which is something that eludes you when you're singing Beef Flavored Island on a stage, So yeah, that was, for me, that was a big clicking moment.
How did that eventually lead to Ninja Sex Party, just out of curiosity?
I had done, by the time Ninja Sex Party called, that somebody had referred me
Okay.
to them.
He's in the circle, and
You're in this circle,
He's
yeah.
got his name out there.
In a very specific niche too. Like, now I do like all the weirdo guys call. So
That's why we called.
yeah.
We're not weird though. Me and Brent are normal.
Well, you're normal.
We are actually pretty normal. We're pretty normal
normal.
guys.
Well, I know that, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah,
Unique live experiences.
sure. Doug,
Well,
before we
let's-
go, did you want to say, was there something about Eric Andre, some kind of Eric Andre thing you wanted to say, or you want to save that? Or?
Well, like I said, that's going to be for After Dark.
Okay, got it. Sorry, I missed
Like
that.
I said.
I missed that.
Is there
Hello.
anything, JP? How can people find your information and your content?
My website is jpinc.tv. I'm on Twitter and Instagram at JP Incorporated.
Hell yeah! Check out.
I look forward to hearing about this.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
and
Andre thing.
It's gonna be really juicy, I'm sure.
we'd like to thank real quick. We'll thank our team, Chloe Bonilla, El Bircho, that's Jack Birch, and Jackie Montana. They help us out putting out these episodes. And check us out on YouTube, youtube.com/The Poundcast. And if you want to listen to us keep talking to JP Incorporated, aka JP Hasson, go to patreon.com/Poundcast, and you can get instant access at an extremely budget rate now by following us there. And we'll see you next time on
Poundcast.